things over to Maura.
Thank you very much, Nicole, and welcome everyone to this morning's webinar, or this afternoon, depending on where you are. Again, my name is Maura Hudson, Senior Managing Director of Newmark Knight Frank, and I'm very pleased to kick off this next session regarding the future of work and human-machine collaboration trends. We've had as a chapter, which is about 2 years running now, over 6 webinars plus live sessions at the annual conference on a variety of topics, from co-working to building technology and the Internet of Things, managing cybersecurity. The subjects are quite diverse and really trending well beyond what you would necessarily consider the bread and butter of real estate and facilities management. So I encourage everyone on the call to be able to check out what we're doing in our chapter, check out our LinkedIn page, post, and develop community with our fellow chapter members. With that, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today's webinar. Peter Miskovich is a good friend and colleague within our industry. He is the he is Executive Managing Director for Strategy and Innovation for Jones Lang LaSalle, JLL. He is well known as an innovative thought leader within our industry, focusing on workplace strategies, operational improvement, a special expertise in developing the digital workplace transformation. He served on a variety of boards, as you can see on his profile here. And, you know, when it comes to the future of work, he's really in the forefront of looking way past what the workplace is operating at today and what we might expect for the future in terms of employee engagement and the places that people work and live. So with that, I will turn it over to Peter, and I look forward to hearing everyone's questions and comments in the chat as we proceed through this session. Peter.
Maura, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today with the IAOP audience, and per the introduction, we have about 30 to 35 minutes of content, and if folks can provide their questions via chat, that would be great. So we'll kick it off focused on the future of work, where the future of work is taking us, with a strong emphasis today on human-to-machine collaboration, and what will that mean for the future of the workplace and the future of the enterprise. So we'll go to the first slide, which is a little bit of a reintroduction. As Maura kindly introduced me, I serve on a number of advisory boards, including the Accenture Global Technology Vision Board. We'll be providing some exclusive content today from our recent work with Accenture. We also serve on a number of advisory boards for Cornet, the Woodrow Wilson Center, and WorkTech. And I also assist major corporations, typically at the C-suite, in terms of their global operational strategies, portfolio transformation strategies, and workplace innovation solutions. So, pleasure to be here again. So we're going to kick it off with a few definitions in terms of digital transformation. And digital transformation will change everything. Every company is becoming a digital business. Digital is changing how we work, live, learn, and play. We're seeing new digital ecosystems that are actually transforming industry sectors. Recent merger efforts between even the CVS and Aetna merger. Amazon is a great example of this. Is Amazon a retail company? Is Amazon a technology company? Is it a combination of both? Also, a very strong focus on digital talent and new digital operating models, which again, we'll focus on with several examples. And the prioritization of flexible and liquid enterprise organizational models. And what does this mean in terms of agility and adaptation? And then how do we integrate these new human-to-machine collaborative ecosystems into our future of work models? And per the final statement on this slide, digital transformation really requires a much more agile, flexible, liquid, which will further define, and resilient business strategy. So there's a great deal of convergence around these themes, and we'll highlight several during our discussion today. So a little bit about the current landscape as it relates to global emerging and declining jobs. This is from the most recent World Economic Forum We're seeing by 2022, 133 million new roles will emerge, and they're listed there on the right. I'll highlight a couple of those. And then we'll also see the decline of about 75 million positions by 2022 for a net gain of 58 million new jobs. And some of the new positions and job and career opportunities will involve item 2, AI and machine learning specialists, item 5, sales and marketing professionals, organizational development specialists, and very interesting new converged career opportunities are emerging. But we will see decline, and this is part of the human-to-machine collaborative challenge. There will be decline in certain functions and job career positions, such as accounting, bookkeeping, business services and admin managers, and general operational managers. Anything that is routinized and that can be successfully managed and executed by machines and technology will most likely migrate in that direction. So another highlight from the World Economic Forum is the robot revolution. It's not only coming, it's actually here. And as we look at humanoid robots, we are seeing a 23% adoption by 2022. The financial services industry with robotic process automation is clearly in the lead there. Stationary robots at 37%, with the automotive, aerospace, supply chain industries in the leadership role there. Aerial and underwater robots, drones, oil and natural gas sectors taking the lead, and non-humanoid land robots at 33%, again within the supply chain, automotive, and aerospace industries. So machines are coming, and they are here, integrating their capabilities across sectors. And the question is, how will we work with machines in the future? So as the machines take greater routinized and transactional work in complement to humans, what will humans be required to do in the future? And here again, our good colleagues, I'm a big supporter and member of the World Economic Forum, lists the following 10 key skills for the future. And I'll just read them through because I think they're worthy of attention. The first skill being complex problem solving, second, critical thinking, third, creativity, fourth, people management, fifth, social coordination with others, management of teams, sixth, emotional intelligence, seventh, judgment and decision making, eighth, having a service orientation, helping others, 9, negotiation skills, and 10, cognitive flexibility. You'll notice that all these skills are rather soft skills and cognitive skills in nature. And so the top skills of the future for humans will require many of these, what we'll call cognitive and qualitative soft skills versus traditional, shall we say, hard technical skills. In addition, digital transformation is occurring across 3 major domains. We're seeing digital business transformation, AI, cloud, edge computing, microservices, digital workforce transformation. What is the digital workforce profile of the future in terms of digital talent and the liquid workforce? And how will workforce automation change the talent composition of companies? And then finally, digital workplace transformation. How does place factor into the digital revolution in terms of liquid workplace networks, flex space and co-working, and smart workplace Internet of Things integration? All of these are converging, and we'll touch primarily today on the workforce and workplace components as part of our discussion. So as we look at the digital enterprise of the future, we're seeing what many have termed as the new liquid enterprise model. And it involves technology, talent, and workplace. And the elements on the left side of the screen in red are really technology elements as it relates to liquid enterprise modeling. And they involve liquid data, liquid projects, liquid smart services, liquid processes, liquid infrastructure. So as technology becomes more agile and flexible, this liquidity component will be really key in terms of migrating technology solutions to various new business opportunities and really having scalable and quite agile, flexible technology infrastructure. Simultaneously, on the right side of the screen, the first 4 elements are workforce and talent liquid capabilities. So in terms of liquid talent, the ability for dynamic social talent ecosystems, liquid learning, continual learning. We'll all have to retrain and reteach ourselves probably every 18 months, if not every 6 months, in terms of our learning and skills capabilities. And then finally, liquid intelligence and liquid leadership, using AI and self-organizing teams with AI to orchestrate new management models. And then finally, the liquid workplace as a means for agile, flexible, and liquid workplace networks that will support on-demand work processes and practices, which we'll share further as part of this discussion. A little bit about the liquid workforce, and this is from our work with Accenture. On the far left is the vertical axis looking at role-based work moving to task-based work, and the right axis looks at integrated corporations moving to liquid and pure open marketplaces in terms of talent. So historically, organizations had a majority of their employees in that lower left quadrant in terms of fixed-term roles and high-commitment liquid full-time employees. What we're seeing is a migration to these items in red, the internal on-demand talent pool, the external talent network, and public crowd freelance workers. And these liquid workers are now making up a greater majority or percentage of many organizations. Accenture, as an example, leverages heavily, 300,000 to 400,000 folks in the gray circles, but another 600,000 to 800,000 in the red circles. And then automation is sort of at the top of the food chain here as we look to a new composition in terms of our overall talent profile for an organization of the future. And this approach will allow for a lot of flexibility where your full-time employees may be much fewer and your liquid and agile and adaptive workforce resources may be much more numerous than your full-time employee equivalents. So a little bit about automation, and here again from our good colleagues at the World Economic Forum. As we look at human to machine division of labor, today we're at about 70-30, 70% human, 30% machine. By 2022, we'll be looking at a 60-40 split. 60% of work will be performed by humans, 40% by machine. By 2025, we'll be approaching a 50-50 split, where we'll have 48% of the work in terms of hours spent, and most likely even workflow performed by humans, and then 52% performed by machines. So we are migrating towards the even division of labor, and we'll share some of the results and outcomes from this migration. So on this slide, we'd like to define, well, what are the human skills and what are the machine capabilities that will be required in the future? So humans are really good at agile, non-routine work. We're good at leadership, social personal work activities, improvisation, and creativity, innovative capabilities. Machines are very good at mechanistic, transactional, iterative, repetitive, predictive, and routine, routinized work that can be done ad infinitum at multiple repetitions. Machines are excellent at. So in defining these two areas, again, I'll highlight the work from Accenture. Accenture's highlighted the missing middle, which as machines complement humans, this missing middle between human activity and machine activity becomes a very interesting new opportunity landscape in terms of these next generation human to machine collaborative ecosystems. So machines may decrease the value of some human work, but will actually increase the value of human to machine complementary work. And we'll share as part of this discussion today at a high level how some of this added value is organizing itself. So a little more detail around the missing middle. On the far left side of the slide, you see human-only activity. Humans lead, create, improve, and judge. On the far right, we see machine-only activity. Machines transact, iterate, predict, and evolve. And what's interesting, in the middle, we see these human-to-machine collaborative ecosystems, and I'll just highlight here several of the categories where humans may and will enable machines to train. Humans can train AI for better performance. Humans can explain and make AI much more explainable in terms of artificial intelligence, and sustain. Humans, with our voluminous data creation capabilities and orchestration capabilities, can make AI actually more sustainable. From a machine perspective, machines can amplify, machines can augment with powerful insights what humans are doing. Machines can give a user interface personality, and also human interfaces can become, if you will, personalized through those machine interfaces. And machines can embody physical aid in terms of embodiment of the physical realm in addition to the virtual AI realm. And so this is sort of the overall context, which I'll just delve into a little further in terms of new job creation. So as we look at new jobs created with human to machine, humans enabling machines, augmented designers and superhuman stylists, AI-powered researchers, where humans and machines are working very closely together in terms of various augmentation activities. Next generation integrated customer agents. Amelia from IPSOF is an example where Amelia speaks 70 languages. She can manage most basic customer related interfaces in terms of customer service, and this is being widely implemented across the insurance sector at present and other financial services firms. AI maintenance engineers, again, the linking between maintenance and AI and smart manufacturing as another opportunity for new jobs created. Remote mining agents, embodied doctors, flexible factory workers. These are all sort of next generation humans that will be enabled by machines per this new collaborative ecosystem platform and capability. Conversely, or in complement, machines, humans will augment machines, or machines will augment humans, but with the following: data hygienists and interaction modeling, empathy training. How do we train AI to be more empathetic and actually to have ethical decision making and to eliminate AI bias? Algorithmic forensics analysis and transparency and explainability strategists. How do we have greater context for AI and provide, again, ethics compliance management, automation, and other sort of human relationship capabilities within AI. So machines on their own are useful to some degree, but per this ecosystem, we see this convergence, this human to machine, missing middle convergence to be really powerful between certainly now and 2030 and beyond, relative to new job creation and new levels of human performance, as well as new levels of machine performance. To give you an example of what this may look like in terms of a workforce mix, if you look at the current workforce versus the future workforce, we're going to see a mix of data scientists, IT managers, IT business analysts in this example, and some of these roles will migrate to technology. Again, those roles that are very repetitive and routinized, where we can really leverage the strong capabilities of machines. However, humans will be very much engaged in the same workforce mix, but perhaps you'll have a number of humans who will be full-time equivalents, others who may be liquid, adaptive workforce humans, and then the machine-to-human ecosystems will vary based upon AI workforce management enablement platform. So the way we work and how our work is organized may be very different than it is today as we see this greater complementary relationship between humans and machines. From a skills prediction capability, here again, new skills will be required: high adaptability, capacity for reinvention, the ability to move at a pretty accelerated pace to keep up with machines. We'll need a human-centered mindset. A lot more collaboration and nurturing will be required because a lot of the work will become much more creative and co-creative in terms of collaborative activities. And these practices, again, will be driven by new roles, human-only roles, primarily in the lead, improvise, create, judge, and team, nurturing, role dimension. Humans will help to augment machines in terms of sustaining, explaining, and training machines to perform with ethics, to perform with good judgment and without bias. Machines will augment humans in terms of amplification, interaction, and embodiment. And finally, the human focus, again, upon creativity and complex problem solving. What we're seeing and what we do believe from our work with Accenture and others, that this will uplift the human dimension in terms of our work capabilities and achieve new levels of human performance. So what work will we perform in the digital future as humans? These are 5 basic categories. As we discussed in the earlier content, creativity, ideation, and innovation will be really key. Humans will focus a great deal on complex communication and continuous learning. We'll need to focus on big picture synthetic thinking and complex problem solving, and the social emotional intelligence capabilities, the ability to lead teams and to lead diverse teams, both across liquid workforce profiles as well as potential, multiple alliance resources and other machine-to-human ecosystem resources. The ability to navigate and manage teams in this new complex landscape will be a true skill for the future. And then finally, there'll be a lot of focus and opportunity around the design, construction, and monitoring and management of the next generation of machines. So as machine learning, machine capability, AI, and these ecosystems evolve, entire new industries will be created in terms of that segment development effort as an industry sector. So I'd like to highlight in the last few slides I have here for this session on what does this mean to the corporate real estate sector in particular. And as we look at our work with MIT, we're a founding sponsor of the MIT Real Estate Innovation Lab. This is the Real Estate Innovation Lifecycle, which is based upon the Gartner Lifecycle. So what we're seeing in the real estate space, this trend from innovation to what's called the peak of inflated expectations, migrating down through the trough of disillusionment, and then becoming the plateau of productivity and the path to reuse, obsolescence, and so forth. This is a curve that we're co-creating with MIT, and that MIT has taken leadership in developing. And we're seeing at the peak today, shared working space and co-working and shared living as an example, as sort of the peak of this innovation cycle. As we move through the curve, certain things are becoming, shall we say, much more commonplace and part of the evolution in terms of longer term acceptance and potential obsolescence. And then on the upswing, in terms of innovation, smart workspaces and smart connected green buildings, intelligent buildings. So as the building space gets more and more intelligent, our buildings will become alive and intelligent, and the human to machine collaboration opportunities here from a service provider perspective will increase exponentially, as will the need for these flexible, agile, liquid workplace networks as per the co-working trend, which is certainly growing in demand and in marketplace presence. This is from our recent work as JLL in terms of our Enterprise of the Future model. I'll just highlight this model as it relates to the future of work and the future of digital transformation for the real estate and facility sector, with a strong focus upon 3 major elements of people, technology, place, and 6 corresponding domains. So this next generation of human to machine capability will impact work, certainly, in terms of how we will work to change and create greater value for the enterprise. What type of talent will we need in the future? And how does the workplace support human workforce performance and long-term well-being? And then from a technology perspective, how does technology drive digital transformation? How will the workplace enable future workforce strategies and enable actually some of this machine-to-human collaborative activity and ecosystem development? And then finally, from a place perspective, how do we transform buildings into strategic assets and actually into intelligent assets? And finally, from a portfolio perspective, we're seeing great challenges and opportunities in terms of portfolio optimization. As the workforce becomes more liquid, as we see these agile workplace networks, including co-working and flex space options become more prevalent, we're going to see some really new, interesting portfolio optimization opportunities, as well as on the left, digital workplace integration opportunities. But all of this will need to be balanced against corporate strategy, culture and organization, the brand and image of an organization, and the values of an organization. All of these elements will need to be taken into consideration, again, in a holistic way as we look at these next generation of machine to human collaborative ecosystems. And finally, pardon me, one too many. These are sort of 4 key digital workplace trends that we believe will be, high priority elements as we move forward for any enterprise or large organization to consider. They will need to consider liquid corporate real estate portfolios. So how do we ensure that the real estate facilities that we lease, own, co-work, have, even in a virtual sense, how do we ensure agility and liquidity in terms of those portfolios? We will see the continued formation and development of agile liquid workplace networks, including co-working and flex space options. And that diversity of optionality from a supply perspective, we believe will increase significantly over the next 10 years. Within the enterprise workplace environment, digital workplace ecosystems, and the investments into the Internet of Things, next generation technology infrastructure to allow for those buildings and those workplaces to really be truly smart and to be capable on multiple levels in terms of human to machine performance and certainly building and systems performance. And then finally, a strong emphasis on digital collaboration. So how do we have a collaborative environment where people are doing their best and highest work and providing greatest value to the organization and to themselves? And how do we ensure that the machines are also working in an optimal manner in terms of delivering value, and those investments into human to machine ecosystems are being rewarded relative to return on investment and meeting both financial objectives and other business outcomes. So in conclusion, that's really the content that we have today to share with the IAOP leadership team and with the audience. And I'm glad, Maura, to open it up for any questions following what I've just shared.
Thank you very much. There's such great, interesting content that's been provided today. I think particularly liked learning about the types of trainers that I think it was the Accenture work that you had on a previous slide of machines, the empathy trainer, the personality trainer. Yeah, I'm going to have to go find more information about those roles in machine enhancement that I thought was very interesting. Also, the worldview trainer. And actually, I have a question for you. And before on this note, and before I do that, I want to remind everybody that the chat function is ready and available for anyone on the phone today to ask some questions. I know some of our colleagues within the chapter have joined today, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts as well. So if you could put those in the chat, I'll collect them as part of this dialogue. But the thing that I always seem to come back to when we're discussing the future of human and automation in collaboration is how that seems to work in an additional trend of the gig economy, and you mentioned it as like a liquid workforce. I think the gig economy workforce is considered part of that definition. When it comes to identifying resources to work on discrete projects or assignments, how they are factored in the kinds of training that are required to evolve an organization. Have you seen any examples of how that the liquid workforce is able to adapt? Is that self-managed? Is that invested in by companies, by universities? What are some of the examples that you've seen today?
Yeah, Maura, great question. So absolutely, the gig economy, which is still maturing, and in many respects, one thinks of the gig economy in terms of often, the Uber driver or Lyft driver, but we are seeing sort of a migration as we look at the liquid workforce, including, gig, contract, and subcontracted workers as they become more sophisticated in their skill sets and capabilities, and they join workforce platforms such as Upwork as an example, across Silicon Valley and a number of technology organizations. Accenture, for one, is able to access hundreds of programmers, as an example, via Upwork in a liquid manner to supplant and orchestrate, existing teams on specific projects. I mean, one basic tenet for the future of work is that work will probably become much more project-based, and it's been defined by McKinsey, Accenture, MIT, and others as we look at sort of this human cloud. So if we think of the technology cloud, we may see the evolution of a human cloud that will scale, and the contingent workforce, the liquid workforce, will be part of that cloud platform capability, if you will. And people have choices in terms of how they wish to work, when they wish to work, who they wish to work for, and probably actually how they're to be paid. One example that we've often cited is the Hollywood model, whereby, in Hollywood, people come together for a movie, actors, directors, writers, technical folks. They come together for a period of time, they produce the movie as a project, and then they disband, and then they reassemble and co-create again for other, movies and or projects. If we took that example and we scaled it, at a global level with AI-enabled workforce platforms to manage that, you could see, 2 to 3 billion people around the planet potentially working within this new construct. And it will mean a new definition of labor. It will require some societal changes, which we're seeing in places like the UK and elsewhere in terms of, and perhaps even the US, in terms of our healthcare and health insurance for all, so that your employer is potentially multiple employers, and the ability to work as a liquid worker across multiple organizations that will value your talent. The challenge will be, for many of these liquid workers, how to continually evolve talent and capabilities and skill sets, and then, to continually look at how I can offer my skills and capabilities across sort of that liquid landscape in a way where I can derive the greatest value and hopefully do our best work, so to speak, with, optimal compensation and optimal, health and well-being and balance and all of those great things. So I think that evolution, and that's a long-winded answer, Maura, but that evolution is coming. The question will be, it might take, 10 or 12 years for that type of new workforce ecosystem to really mature. And in the midst of all of this, we'll see the continued advances of artificial intelligence and the need, and I can't emphasize this enough, the need for everyone to keep learning and to keep upskilling themselves in terms of their skills and capabilities and value, if you will, to the overall work environment at large.
Right. It seems like the competitiveness of being able to have this flexible workforce will help drive, individual need to keep up with skills as much as anybody else contributing to the training of these resources. That's a good answer. Heidi Solomon has weighed in with a number of questions. I'll read them all three, but you can start with which one you think you can make sense to address. So we have, can you please define the liquid workforce? That's one. Two is, there are many challenges even in the human environment in assuring empathy, non-bias, personalization, so forth. If humans will be developing these technologies, how do we close the gap between what the humans are creating and the end product of these technologies? That's the second question. And then finally, business is still comprised of people. How do we bridge the gap to assure personal connections in this increasing personal world?
Yeah, those are all great questions, Heidi. Thank you. So the first part of your question in terms of the liquid workforce is really any worker that's beyond a traditional full-time equivalent worker, although in some organizations, full-time equivalent workers become project-based and in some senses can be partially liquid. So it's really agile, flexible workforce behaviors, certainly including, gig workers, contract workers, and any definition, in between. And I'm glad to send you our work if you send me an email or connect via LinkedIn, the definitions as provided by Accenture and MIT and others. In terms of your other questions, I think the challenges are going to be pretty significant. There was a conference this weekend at Stanford University focused upon the social implications of artificial intelligence. And we will need to bridge the gap between how machines will work, and we need to shape machines in terms of how they think and how they will collaborate with us. And there's a lot of emphasis right now across many academic institutions, MIT, Stanford, firms like Accenture, McKinsey, and others in terms of data and artificial intelligence ethics, and to ensure that we are creating a future whereby machines will have the right balance of ethical and judgment and decision making that is productive and constructive. And I think that journey will be an ongoing journey. There are those who are, quite fearful of the future in terms of, AI sort of taking over, and it's sort of a dystopian view similar to 2001, the HAL Space Odyssey, 2001 Space Odyssey outcome. But I think the majority today believe that if we can shape AI and shape the future, we can bridge this gap in terms of both personal connectivity and personalization and ethics and organizing the right values, if you will, into technology that is coming. And the challenge is the technology is coming no matter what. I'll also mention that we'll probably have to have a lot more focus on human nurturing. To your last question, there's a number of recent thought leadership white papers that we may be entering a new age of isolationism. And so if that indeed is the trend, how do we create community and social connectivity, and how do we bridge some of the current trends? And that is no small task, but I think it's a challenge that's being, raised. And I think as a community of business leaders and technologists and social policymakers and government officials, I think it will take pretty massive effort to really look at, this next generation of work and to try to ensure that the social consequences are not negative outcomes. So really great questions, Heidi, and glad to provide more follow-up on all of those if helpful to you. So thank you.
And thank you, Heidi. Those were great. Another thought that, when we always have these kinds of dialogues, this is very forward-thinking, aspirational discussion, and trying to bring this to the practical application can sometimes be a challenge with our clients. I think there are some examples, certainly when you talk about creating co-working environments or investing in these locations and being able to also build this within your own portfolio. Being able to create flexible work environments. There's a number of different practical examples that tie to these future trends. Can you cite some that may not be always, not readily discussed within our real estate facility management industry that you've seen work for some of your clients?
Yes, certainly, Maura. That's a great question. So the new emphasis, or I would say the heightened emphasis around digital talent. And when we define digital talent, this is the talent that can enable digital transformation. It's certainly technical talent. I mean, if you think about the Amazon HQ search nationally and the criteria that Amazon has used for their new 50,000 person HQ, there's a really strong focus across all of my current, Fortune 50 clients on where do I find and where do these organizations discover and capture sort of the next generation of digital talent. And then once we identify that talent, how do we attract them? How do we nurture them? How do we ensure that they are engaged and we provide, vibrant, very positive human engagement and employee engagement as part of that talent strategy, but it's also part of a workforce and real estate and workplace strategy. So we are seeing that across a number of organizations today. We have clients who are rethinking, 50 to 75% of their current portfolios in terms of, are these clients located in the right locations for the long term, in terms of digital talent, and then in terms of how do I capture that talent and how do I house and orchestrate that talent for the future. That's clearly a very big priority today across most of our knowledge-intensive client organizations, I think almost across all sectors. In addition to that, this liquid workforce and contingent workforce and the changes in terms of how work is being organized is driving the co-working and flex space trend in a pretty significant way. So whether you're a startup or you're a medium mature startup or you're a Fortune 500 company, the ability again to look at liquid workers who can work in a flexible manner across a myriad of various co-working or flex space sites, we believe will continue. And so today, the percentages are quite small in terms of flex space and co-working space, and they're actually not so great of a percentage in terms of liquid workers. I mean, the average is perhaps less than 20% in most organizations. But as we migrate towards new ways of working, a strong emphasis on digital talent, how do I capture that talent, a stronger emphasis on liquid workers and flexible work, all of a sudden, and then you've got the machine-to-human collaboration profile entering the picture simultaneously more, it's going to create some very new challenges and interesting opportunities in terms of how a corporate real estate portfolio should be organized in the future. And we may need very many fewer, lease spaces that we call the enterprise lease space or enterprise owned space, but they'll have to be pretty valuable locations in terms of the investment in technology and perhaps the investment in terms of the digital talent that will be housed in those locations. And then as we look at the remainder of the portfolio, how does that get organized to be just in time, to be co-working, to be virtual, to be liquid? I think that'll be the next generation of challenge, and we're already beginning to see it across a number of our clients as they rethink their future workforce needs and their future real estate needs. So the great article in CFO Magazine 2 weeks ago that the cost of labor as a cost to the enterprise will probably skyrocket between now and 2027, 2030. Again, digital talent and talent in general to fill these next generation workforce needs will be highly valued. And there are estimates that we will have severe shortages of many of the positions that I shared earlier in the presentation. And so, how do we make up for those shortages? How do we train our current workers? How do we create apprenticeship? How do we perhaps revamp our educational systems? It's a societal challenge, but one that I think for those organizations that see the future a bit and can identify these opportunities, there's great, shall we say, advances and leapfrogging that can be made if an organization has the foresight to see these changes coming and then with the ability to organize, their workplace and their workforce strategies accordingly. So I know it's a little bit of a long answer to your question, but I think, all of this is coming to corporate real estate in the workplace in a pretty big way, and I think we're just beginning to see the first glimpse of a pretty big tidal wave of transformational change.
Right. And I remind everyone one more time to feel free to post questions regarding any of this dialogue in our chat. I have one more that occurred to me regarding all being able to prepare for this wave of change. how would you rate our infrastructure and our security capabilities to handle this wave of change?
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's a lot of focus, especially across our financial service clients and all clients actually, on cybersecurity risk and infrastructure security risk. So I think, with artificial intelligence and actually blockchain, there's some very interesting new ecosystem opportunities are developing that may, and AI is already helping us, by the way, in terms of hardening our security infrastructure. And I think we're already seeing a bit of what is called the balkanization, or the iron cladding a bit of the internet, where, certain private cloud networks and other networks may be very secure for certain transactions, and sort of the open landscape of the internet as we know it may be changing. So the next generation of technology may actually help us formulate new strategies for cybersecurity defense, and may help harden, against these attacks. And as we know from both the 2016 elections to, everything we've read about in the various media outlets in terms of enterprise cybersecurity risk, this is a top priority for most organizations. So I think we'll see a lot more investment in both machine, certainly security and cybersecurity applications, as well as how these applications can be further hardened and made stronger through these new technologies such as blockchain. I think that challenge is not going away, and from an organizational investment perspective, I think it's another area of career growth and investment required. And I think that is just sort of the new world in which we live, and we'll all have to have greater security capabilities, both on a personal level as well as on an enterprise level moving forward, Mara, given these ecosystems and all of the penetration opportunities and porosity that will develop from sort of this next generation of work and workplace platform performance. So that would be an answer there, and I'm glad to share more about that through other colleagues that have in-depth capabilities in that space as well, if helpful.
Sure. Well, that seems to be such a moving target, and every time there's new developments and advancements, there's a competing way around it. It seems like so. This certainly an area of economic growth just in that industry sector. I will. Yeah. Is there anyone else that has any other questions? I'll give it 10 seconds here to post on the chat. This has been such rich content, very research rich, a really great trend data from the various consultants that are focused on this, led of course by Peter and many others in this industry. If there's no other questions, I just want to close by saying thank you very much to you for this dialogue. I've seen you present in the past, and this continues to grow as a topic and with new information all the time. So I was enjoying seeing some of the latest things that you have to say on this. But again, thank you so much for your time. And thanks to everyone that participated in today's webinar and online. And Nicole, I think I'll be turning it back over to you.
Yes, just really quickly, thank you everyone for joining. This webinar will be recorded and uploaded to our Knowledge Center, so feel free to find it there. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Very good. Thank you so much, Mara and Nicole. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Peter. Bye-bye.